Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Success in Africa Leadership Podcast. My name is Dr. Modupe Taylor-Pierce, and I'm so excited to have Dr. Sangu Delle with us today, our featured guest for the podcast, for the episode. This is our third of three. Now, we do this so that you can be successful, because the path to success is littered with examples and mentors who can show you the path by what they have done. And that's why we do this podcast, because we want you to be successful. So if you've got questions, etc., you can certainly pose them to me. Go to BCA Online. You can type in your questions there. I'll get back to you. And if there's something I don't know, trust me, I'll find the person who knows and we'll get you an answer. So in the first two episodes, we explored Sangu Delle's early life, and we learned some things there. Go back and watch it if you missed it. And then in the second episode, we explored his professional life, how he got into investment. And in case you're wondering, this person has invested successfully in baby food, in forest bureaus, agribusiness, aquaculture, healthcare, and tech. So he knows Africa. Welcome again, Dr. Sangu Delle, to the third episode.
Thank you, and always great to connect and discuss things with you, my brother.
Now, Sangu, looking at you with this wonderful smile, you've raised money, you've done well, one might be tempted to think it has all been roses and peaches and cream for you. But I want to ask you, what are some of the painful lessons you have learned as you have climbed the ladder of success in Africa? Where have you made some, shall we say, regrettable decisions that you can learn from?
Absolutely. No, the journey is never linear. It's I saw this post on social media. I think it's a viral one that's well known, where they say many people think success is like this, but it's actually like this. And I would say, so for me, there are, I'll put it in three buckets, right? So the first, I want to talk about mental health. The second, I want to talk about what I call the African reality, right? And then the third is really looking at the third one is actually a sub on the first one. So let's take these two: mental health and African reality. So the mental health front, look, already we have a problem on the continent with mental health, the stigma, toxic masculinity, and ways in which we socialize, especially men, to believe that they shouldn't process or express emotions because you have to be like Okonkwo and things fall apart, a strong man. And it's very destructive, extremely destructive. I experienced this firsthand. With Golden Palm, at one point in our real estate division, which was going to be our largest, there was a big project. It was going to be a landmark project that was going to transform the company, a $12 million project. The land in airports, $2 million, which I had already gotten through a partnership with the original owner of it, so I had it on the balance sheet. So now on the balance sheet, and I had an exchange for an interest in the project. So I now have a balance sheet, right, for the real estate business where I have a $2 million piece of property. So I use that as leverage to now go out to raise $10 million to build this signature tower that it was going to be transformative. We also already had off-takers, right? So, it was just, it felt like a no-brainer. And in fact, had calculated we would have made an estimated $4 million from this project. And so I was very excited. The 10 million was 5 million in equity, 5 million in debt. A lot of my debt investors, almost all of them were coming from Japan. And then my equity investors at the time had one from China, one from Japan. And so I have both the debt and equity sorted. The debt came very quickly. Like they sent in the money, so we already started doing, investing, got the architect, engineers, already started spending some of that capital. And then the equity check, we're waiting for it. It was going to come. And then in the most, peculiar turn of events, in what some Africans would describe as, who in your village doesn't like you? Right? and you already have a foreshadowing by that comment alone. My equity investors, two of them, they just died within a couple of weeks of each other before the money was wired. So
died as in ran away, or died as in 6 feet under?
Gone. Grave. The Lord called them.
Okay.
And so in the beginning, I was just like, oh, that's fine now. Just go out and raise some more equity. But when you secure equity before debt, it's a lot easier. Trying to secure equity after debt is a different ballgame.
Wow.
Secondly, the Ghanaian real estate market and generally the Ghanaian macroeconomy started to face challenges. So long story short, was not able to raise the equity, had this $5 million of debt that I had. Because I already had off-taker agreements, I had structured it where, like, let's say one is 1 year, the other is 18 months, 24 months, it had been staggered there because I know, okay, this person pays, then he paid off. So now we're stuck with the delays in us not meeting the deadlines. A lot of the off-takers also pull up. So imagine I was in my mid-20s. Oh, and it gets worse. Because of the off-taker agreement and how this was structured, I was so confident of this deal. And I was personally going to make about $2 million. So I was so confident in the deal that I already started to spend some of the money. But money is coming. So my savings, my this, my that, money is coming. So I started pledging to philanthropic causes, right? Because the money is coming. Like, what risk? I've already secured the investors. I've secured the people who are buying it. It was all buttoned up. So now I have all these commitments I've made. I have these investors who are dead. The whole thing was a disaster. And I ended up going through the worst turmoil. I sank into deep depression. I would get anxiety attacks daily. It truly was a miracle how I was able to get out of it. It was the technology portfolio that ended up really performing so well that I was able to leverage that to equitize some of the debt, to restructure, to bring in some more capital, and was able to finally, in fact, in I think about 6 years ago or so, was when I had made the last and final payment.
Wow.
$500,000 to completely end that. And because I was so, here's the other part, because I was so confident, because we had mitigated everything, I personally guaranteed the debt. Because I said, and that, so, look,
So you were on the hook.
it's on the hook. It was, look, it was an experience, and it really, 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 really shaped and completely transformed me. But I struggled and I suffered in silence, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it because African man, he's strong, and it was distracted. That's how I. This is actually the backstory behind my TED talk on mental health. This is the backstory. So that's one on mental health. I think that is something you have to take serious. I think that as a founder and leader, you are your greatest asset. And if you don't take care of yourself, nothing else matters. You can't pour from an empty cup. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And I tell everyone that even the Lord God Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, he himself made the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. So who are you to say you won't rest? Right? So mental health is one. The second, I told you, on the African reality. And a couple quick points there. The first I'll say is, when I first moved back after spending a long time in the US, you sometimes have rose-tinted glasses in which you are coming with all these westernized ideas and models. You'll be humbled very quickly. And so it is important to approach the continent with serious humility and to know that there is a reason and a context for everything that exists, even where it doesn't make sense. It actually makes sense. You just don't understand the context and you don't have the appropriate local knowledge and insights. So that's 2A. 2B, this idea, especially around the Africa Rising rhetoric, this idea of, Africa has the highest returns and there are all these opportunities and so on and so forth. The sobering reality, it is not true. We do not have the highest returns when you risk adjust. We don't. And that's okay. That's okay. But the reality is, when you look at it from risk adjusted returns, when you look at it from return on time, return on wahala, I will be very frank with you. We have some of the worst returns, right? However, impact adjusted returns are some of the highest in the world. So I say this so that you need to have a dispassionate analysis and understand that if I had done everything I had done here on the continent, in the US or elsewhere, I would be 100 times wealthier. So you need to have different motivations. And for me, the impact and being able to shape certain things that I care about here is the big driver. And if you don't have that sober realization, you are going to run into a lot of issues and challenges, right? The third part, C, of the African reality is that, when I was younger, I wanted to run, if government is on the right, I wanted to take one of Elon Musk's rockets, turn it to the left and say, let's go. Because I don't want to hear government. But that was foolish naivety. Because in our part of the world, whether you like them, you don't like them, government matters. Because the decisions they make, you will suffer the economic consequences of them. And so I've reached a point of realization that you have to have you necessarily need to pay attention to and actively try to shape what government does. Right? Completely disassociating yourself or completely removing yourself from government, it's not going to help you. You need to understand the huge role that government plays, right? And know how you can appropriately engage to ensure that whether it's your private sector perspective or what have you, it is adequately represented, right? And so I'll say those would be the top three under the African reality.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. This and these top three, talking about having the humility to recognize that, Africa's problems are not existent because the people you met in Africa have sworn a vow of poverty or they are stupid. And, the fact that, return on investment dollar on dollar terms is not good. It's the impact that you will have that essentially covers for what you might lose in your actual wealth. And thirdly, the fact that government matters. All of these lead me to what may be my final question for you, which is around the topic of legacy. The last time we met, you looked like a young man. These days, I can see that you are looking a little bit more, shall we say, mature.
The last time we met, I didn't have grace in the beard.
That's why I didn't want to say that, but that's why I said you are looking more mature.
Well, the last time we also met, the CD was at 4. Then our former president took it to 17, and the grays all started coming out.
So now that and when gray hairs come, it for those of us who are blessed enough to live that long, it helps us to also start to think about what legacy will leave behind. How do we ensure that the impact of our life's work outlives not only our lives, but hopefully the lives of even our grandchildren? Tell me a bit about what you are doing to pursue legacy, or what kind of activities that you are engaged in that you hope will outlive perhaps your grandchildren.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think it's a very important question. It's a question most people think about legacy towards the latter part of their life, right? As you know, I was raised by a very interesting woman. And so, as a result of that, I never assumed tomorrow is guaranteed. Literally, to this day, I woke up this morning, I gave God the glory for life, and my assumption is that today is all I have. I don't assume that tomorrow I'll also wake up. If I wake up, to God be the glory. Tomorrow I also have a gift. And so as a result of that, I started to think about legacy very early. And in fact, it really crystallized for me in October 2013. I had a nightmare in which I died. And I woke up, honestly, in the beginning, I wasn't sure. Am I alive? Because I don't know what, I'm touching myself, but then again, I'm like, as a ghost. It's movies that you see the ghost as who really knows what the ghost is like. Maybe you can. I was just in disarray for a little bit before I said, okay, I'm alive. Obviously, I didn't go back to bed. I stayed up the whole night. I was terrified. And I realized at that time that I wasn't ready to die. And I vowed to myself that never again. So it caused me to completely fundamentally change how I approach life, my brother. After that incident, I actually emptied out my savings, and I went and things, because before I used to say, oh, when I get to this, when I reach this, when I do that, at that moment I said I might not even be alive tomorrow. So I immediately went out and I did things for my mother that I was deferring to say, oh, when I reach here, because I want to do it at this level. I immediately invested in philanthropy. I set up a scholarship at Harvard University for African girls. I immediately started doing things that were meaningful to me, because the question I asked myself was, okay, I can go today and buy all these things for myself, but when I'm dead, then what? I'm not taking any of it with me. Right? And this is not me trying to say, oh, I don't like nice things. I have the new iPhone. I enjoy some nice things. So I'm not here saying I am a Buddhist. But I am saying that the material things are not important to me. They really are not. And so for me, I asked myself, what really matters? And that's why now I have, even though I'm still young and I'm nowhere close to, the levels of success, I set up my foundation because I believe that legacy starts now. And I believe that you do what you can now. So yes, Dangote may have set up his foundation when he could put $1 billion there. I don't have $1 billion. I don't need to wait till I have $1 billion. If what I can start with is 1 million or 100,000 or whatever it is, start. Do good. Do what you can with what you have. Right? And so I've always said that we seem to have this idea of a philanthropist, meaning you have to be this wealthy person. No, all of us can be philanthropists. All of us. As long as you say, look, the little I have, I'm going to take some of that and I'm going to use it to try and make a difference and to give back to the world. We can all be philanthropists, no matter, even if you are somebody who only has 10 kobo. There's somebody who also only has 3 kobo. You can take 1 kobo and give it to them. And I think if we set up this, if we have this culture where all of us who have a bit more turn back to help those with a bit less, we're going to have a very beautiful society. So legacy starts now for everybody. I don't think you should wait, and I don't think you should assume. As my mother would say, tomorrow is not guaranteed. The hours are flying by and the days shall never return. So don't assume tomorrow is going to come.
Wow.
Start your legacy today.
Wow. What I've gained from today's episode, you've shared a couple of things, and I'm so grateful to you for being willing to be vulnerable about your darkest days. You've shared about the importance of mental health, of having, of not buying into the machismo of, I'm a man, I can take it, I don't have to cry, I don't have to tell my problems, because you went through a period that would have destroyed many people. I once spoke to an entrepreneur in Rwanda who told me, you haven't been a real entrepreneur until you've considered committing suicide. And I found that so sad, but I understood, because, you do go through periods of the depths. And at this point, I want to just pause and say to our viewers, folks, this is one of the reasons why BCA Leadership exists. We have coaches to help you, to support you, because every leader needs a coach. And if there's somebody that can just be that thought partner and that accountability partner, that person can be somebody that you can share and tell them that, you know what, me, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And they'll walk with you along the way. It doesn't mean they know more than you, but they're just somebody who can help you think through and work out options where there seem to be only two options and see other options. I love also the fact that you've shared with us and you've broken the myth of this, invest in Africa, you'll make money, you make money. The reality is, we know it's hard. And this is why the impact side is so important. This is why it's so important for those of us who are Africans and therefore have an emotional connection to the continent, that we have the ways to come and invest and do business in Africa. Because for us, that impact means more to us than other people. And lastly, I love the fact that you say, do what you can with what you have. Legacy begins now, not when you are, shall we say, lacking hair or your hair is turning gray. So do what you can to build legacy. Pull somebody else up, even as you are looking at the next rung in the ladder. Folks, there's so much to pack here. But before I close, I want to give Sangu the opportunity. If there's anything that you want to say that we haven't covered, perhaps I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes. You can share anything at all that you want to share with our viewers, our listeners, who hopefully are on their way to becoming successful in Africa.
So one of the things that I would share. So, I'm a father of a 3-year-old daughter, my little princess. And fatherhood has been the most transformative experience of my life. After accepting Christ, it is unquestionably the most meaningful personal experience. And it changes everything, right? Where before, when I was younger, I had all these grand ambitions, and all of that pales in comparison. When I put my daughter in the picture, nothing else matters. And when I really look at the metric of success, whereas in the past, the metric for success may have been, Golden Palm is managing $100 million, let's get to $1 billion and this and that. Now it's really very simple for me. The metrics for success for me are just two. Am I bringing glory to the kingdom? And will I make my little princess proud? That's it. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate our lives, and to be able to simplify it and ground it in some of those key principles will reorient your life towards a path that is more meaningful, towards a path that is more liberating, and towards a path that's more impactful. So I am so grateful to my daughter for changing my life and allowing me to see a very different world through her eyes.
I would be absolutely foolish if I attempted to dilute what you said with any closing comment. Listeners, you've heard it all. This has been the Success in Africa Leadership episode. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. Because together we can build an amazing continent of Africa. I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Delle. Thank you, listeners. Have a wonderful and blessed day.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.